Hello, this is Gary from Spectre House and High Noon Radio. I'd like to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. I'd like to say a little send out to the people out there in California having a hard time with the wildfires. Let's keep everybody in our prayers, guys. So anyway, you guys have a good, safe holiday out there, and we'll see you on the next show. And hello, everybody, and welcome to High Noon Radio. Yeah, we're broadcasting here from the Stairwell Studios here in Miami. Welcome and happy holidays to everybody. Well, we got a couple of days left, and hope you got all your shopping done, because if you believe in him, Santa Claus is on the way. Anyway, let's talk about tonight's show. We're going to take a little trip down to California. We're going to go to the Mojave Desert. Yeah, the high desert. And we're going to visit Muroc Army Airfield, sitting out there in the high desert. And the year is approximately 1950. Yeah, you heard me right, 1950. Yes, the year is 1950. And we're at Muroc Army Airfield. And we're sitting back, relaxing, enjoying the views of aircraft flying overhead. Test pilots doing their thing. Yeah, we're at Muroc Army Airfield, and it's a dry lake bed 44 miles long to accommodate these highly experimental aircraft landing and taking off here at the Rogers and Ruizamondo Dry Lakes. And the year again is 1950, and we're seeing aircraft such as the XP-59 Air Comet, one of the first big aircraft that was experimentally flown successfully there at the dry lake bed. And we're seeing the F-89 Scorpion. Yeah, feel that sting, baby. And there's a lot of other aircraft in development on the drawing boards soon to come. But a lot of the problems stemming from new jet aircraft were problems with the jet engines themselves. The turbojet aircraft of the day had a couple of big problems. Well, at altitude, that means you're up there flying way above the earth. Engines were flaming out in flight. That could be a problem. And another one of the big problems was on the ground. These aircraft, these turbojet aircraft, required extensively long takeoff runs. Yeah, that'd give you white knuckles, wouldn't it? So anyway, they were flying out in Muroc Army Airfield, which was soon to become Edwards Air Force Base in 1949. And if you remember your history, your aviation buffs out there, 1949 they named Edwards because of a crash that occurred in 1948. And a bomber called the Flying Wing, otherwise known to you military experts as the YB-49, that occurred in 1948, renaming in honor of Glenn Edwards, in memory of him, now becoming Edwards Air Force Base. So Muroc Army Airfield was sitting out there on the dry lake beds, and we had a little lady named Pancho Barnes. She was quite the aviatrix of the day, and she had many friends in the aviation industry, pilots, and test pilots soon to become astronauts. She was great friends with a gentleman named Chuck Yeager. You might remember him. He flew the X-1, first man to break the sound barrier, October 14, 1947. Yeah, she was a friend with old Chuck. And she was quite the lady flying planes herself. She broke many, many records. She was very comfortable in the cockpit. And she was a competitor of Amelia Earhart. She broke the speed record in 1930 in the Lockheed Vega. So Amelia was able to win the Air Derby that year, 1930, steal the glory from Amelia Earhart that year on the Lockheed Vega. And she also had sponsorship. Yeah, sponsorship from the good folks at Union Oil that particular year. Very successful for her that year. And later on, 1933, she went down to the Mojave, decided she liked it, and she opened up a little place called the Happy Bottoms Riding Club. The Happy Bottoms Riding Club. Yes, I said it right. And she was the patriarch that started the club down there that had many assets that the test pilots enjoyed and liked and grew to call home. Yeah, so Pancho started the Happy Bottoms Riding Club and catered to the high-flying test pilots of the day. Pretty much was a closed society to most people, but later on it did open up to everybody that had an interest in aviation. God bless her. But she had horses out there. She loved animals, and she eventually made her own little airstrip out there, made it convenient for the pilots visiting to fly in their own airplanes and have a good time, spend the weekend, get some steaks grilled up, and if you happen to just that particular week break the sound barrier, like Mr. Yeager did on October 14, yeah, she'd award you with a nice steak dinner and maybe a little evening flight after. Anyway, but she had a dancing club out there. She had a horse club. She had a beautiful swimming pool. Actually, she had two of them, and the second one was a circular pool that accommodated horses that you could ride into the pool to cool everybody down. But the pool, as it turns out, was a great beacon for the pilots at night to navigate to the ranch, due to the fact there was no lights on the runways, that you could fly in, look for the blue lit swimming pool at night, and that it was your NDB approach into the Happy Bottoms Riding Club. And the crowd out there. Yeah, let's talk about that crowd for a second. Well, let's talk about some of the clientele that you might scurry up to the bar and rub elbows with there at the Happy Bottoms Riding Club. Yeah, you might see a little fellow named R.A. Bob Hoover, big Reno air flyer later on in the day in his famous yellow P-51 Air Racer. And let's see, you like astronauts? Okay, let's see, we got that base covered too. You might rub elbows with John Glenn, or possibly my favorite, Neil Armstrong. Yeah, baby. And then the man himself, Pancho's friend, General Chuck Yeager, X-1 sound barrier breaker. Yeah, one of my favorites too. I'm sure you guys liked him too. Well, we had all the high-flying antics over at the club going on at this time, and the space program was just in its infancy, wasn't even in existence, but the pilots had the interest and the skills, and that was just around the corner. Yeah, but the big story of the day there at the Happy Bottoms Riding Club in the late 40s and early 50s, well, it was the aircraft. Yeah, it was the aircraft that were flying overhead every day that made the ranch what it was. Yeah, let's see. What are you going to be seeing? You might be seeing the XP-59 Alpha, the Air Comet, the X-59 Air Comet There's a picture there for you. And maybe a F-89 Scorpion. Yeah, again, feel that sting, baby. And then come the Century aircraft that followed with much success. The F-102 Delta. The F-106 Dart. And one of the favorites of the crowd, the F-104 Starfighter. Watch out, here comes one. Man, that was close, huh, guys? But a lot of airplanes. And Pancho was out there having a good time with the pilots, serving a lot of steaks. Well, unfortunately, one of the side note, the sidebar that was kind of a downer for the time. The tragic kill rate for the pilots was pretty high, and I think at the peak period in the late to early 50s. There was a crash a day over at Muroc, and a plane a day, and those poor pilots, God bless them, all in the name of technology. But eventually, safety did catch up with the crash rates, and things did settle down successfully, and many new fighters were put into production, and everybody was happy. Well, there were a lot of years there at the Happy Bottoms Riding Club that people really enjoyed. The test pilots had a great time. The public was eventually rubbing elbows with the test pilots. And Pancho Barnes, she had a heck of a place out there. But 1953 came along, and that was a game changer. Edwards Air Force Base needed more space, needed more runway space for their ever increasing fleet of aircraft, jet aircraft, bombers, fighters, and Pancho had to pack up and move, unfortunately, after many, many years of being in the high desert. And if you're interested in the Happy Bottoms Riding Club and Pancho Barnes, you can find her in the movies The Right Stuff, and a special guest appearance by Chuck Yeager himself. Anyway, guys, this has been a fun show. Got some more things to do coming up. We're taking that trip to Egypt. That flight was delayed, but it's coming. Egypt is in the windscreen. So, guys, you'll have fun. Have a good holiday, what's left. And we'll catch you on the next radio show. For now, this is Gary saying goodbye.